are the New York Knicks. I'm back. Back in the New York. Well, it's the Knicks. New York. We are the New York Knicks. New Yorker. For this new season we're about to enter, the Knicks is taking no shorts, just like winter. New York, New York.
New York be about the Knicks, huh?
But the best thing about New York City is
K-N-I-C-K-S.
Everybody say go New York, go New York, go!
Go New York, go New York, go!
Hey everybody, it's the New York Knicks Podcast, episode 539 or 540. It's gotten to that point where I don't even know what episode it is. We're part of Dash Radio. I am Jay. How you doing, Mark? Oh, wait. No, we don't have Mark. We have a special guest, Joey Nicknuts.
Hey, Jay, how are you doing? I'm not even gonna wait for you to ask me how you're doing or care how you're doing. I am fantastic.
Oh, yeah?
The Knicks had the most goddamn amazing draft. Goddamn geniuses run this team. We are blowing this shit up. The Knicks are on fire. They might as well have won the title back to back to back since the season ended.
I'm really excited that you are excited about this draft.
I am through the roof excited, Jay. Can I tell you, Leon Rose is a goddamn genius. Other team GMs, presidents, whatever. Leon Rose, he's playing 4D chess. 4D, 3D, whatever, chess, while other GMs are playing checkers. He's playing Magic the Gathering while other GMs are playing Uno. He's advanced. He's playing in PS7 while other GMs are still playing Sega Genesis. You know what I'm saying?
I do. It's the Knicks drafted some players.
Yeah. He knows he wheels, he deals. He gets play. He has draft picks. He's like, this is not what I'm going to do. I'm going to do crazy stuff. I'm a goddamn magician. I'm going to take 2 picks, turn into other picks and other picks. You don't even know what's up his sleeve. He's crazy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so...
we won the night.
So you're excited. You think the Knicks had the best draft out of every team?
Best draft in the history of goddamn time. The last draft that was almost as good was when Moses drafted those goddamn tablets on Mount Sinai. That was not as good.
All right. I mean, yeah, that one might say that might be a little bit of an overreaction, but...
I don't overreact. I underreact.
You underreacted. So you think in different multiverses, this would still be the best draft of all time?
I think in other multiverses, teams just like there are some multiverses where he did his draft and 29 teams quit the league.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. See, this
so
is
basically he said he came into the draft, had 2 picks, and goes, I'm going to take those 2 picks and double them up to 1 pick.
Well, see, this is what we needed on the show. We've been told that we need some positivity. That's why we brought you on, and you're just bringing it. You're bringing it.
Oh my God. The Knicks, and everyone's like, hey, you need a point guard. And he's like, yeah, well, how about this? I'm going to show you something else. I'm gonna do other things. You guys I'm gonna zig when you zag, motherfucker.
Yeah. All right. So, thank you for bringing all this energy and positivity. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited for this offseason. Knicks have $58 million to spend on 58 million players. It's gonna be awesome.
Yep. All right. Thanks for coming on, Joe.
No questions for me, Jay?
All right. So who's your favorite pick out of all these guys?
Okay. I am loving these guys. Quentin Grimes hit a high percentage of threes, like 40% on 8 shots a game. He's goddamn awesome. Miles McBride, put him in the Hall of Fame. He's the next Chris Paul. We got a point guard. We got a stash. No one even thinks of this. We stashed the guy in Europe. It's crazy.
Yep.
And also, we got a first-round pick for the Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets are so terrible, but this pick is going to be worth so much more in the future. It's going to grow. It's going to compound interest, motherfucker.
So, I'm not sure if you realize the pick is not like Ethereum. It doesn't like go up in value. I mean, It's top 18 protected. I'm just throwing that out there.
Right. This year it was 19. Next year it could be 18.
And then we wouldn't get it.
Oh, it has to be 19?
Yeah. 19 through 30, or then it rolls into the next year. But then in the next year, it could be up to 17.
Yeah. See, compound interest. It's going to blow up.
And if we wait 3 years, it could be it could go all the way up to 15.
Exactly. Leon Rose, he getting paid in the future. Cool. Though I have to say one thing very negative about Leon Rose.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's part of a grander Marshall plan. He declined extending the qualifying offer for Frank Ntilikina. But I think that was $8 million. I think he knows that would be bullshit because he's got to pay Frank more. I'm thinking 3 years, $50 million. Get it done, Leon.
Max him out.
Okay, I'm off.
All right. Thank you, Joey.
Jay just hating that bit. Jay's like, well, do I have to keep talking to you?
All right. So, yes, this is our draft reaction episode. Were you expecting anything?
Was I expecting Mr. Wheeler and Dealer just to I do feel to a certain extent, I know people on Twitter hate, I was very negative. I do feel Rose has some kind of thing, I have to be a Wheeler Dealer. Last year he was, this year, to the point of how about you just take the draft picks that are the picks as presented. I sometimes think wheeling and dealing just doesn't get you what, I don't know. Obviously last year the draft worked out semi-okay. Obviously got quickly with a nice pick. Obi, we'll see. Last year he punted on a second round pick, a very high second round pick, or the 31st pick in the draft, which was a weird thing to punt on. This year he punted on the 19th pick in the draft. He had 19 and 21 and turned it to 25. I don't know. They said, what was it? Well, our guys were taken. So at 19, we had no one left to take. If you had no one left to take, that means you didn't do your homework. Do your goddamn homework. Just find someone else to take. The guys they took, Grimes, McBride, the Stash, they could all, and there's also those guys, I guess they got the guy, Marc Sims and the Jericho Sims. They might be fine. Who knows? But the guys they took, Grimes sounds interesting. McBride sounds really interesting. The guy in Europe sounds really interesting. Maybe they worked out. And who knows? I freaking hate the process. That's what really kills me. I think the process is not smart. Getting your guys makes sense, but passing up the opportunity. Last year I was annoyed about passing up a second round pick. This year, just draft someone else in the first round. Plenty of players work out. Your scouting is not determinant of what's going to happen in the future. In the past, there are lots of guys who have been passed. In previous drafts, we passed over guys like Donovan Mitchell. We passed over Michael Porter. We've passed over a lot of guys in the past because we thought we had our guy. Just take another bite at the apple. Take another swing. These are all gambles. Maybe Quentin Grimes is awesome. Maybe the other guy, maybe he's not. Maybe he's not an NBA player. We don't know. Maybe you draft someone else in the first round, and maybe that guy ends up being good.
So you're saying having two shots at a good player is better than one?
Right.
Huh.
And I've heard the theory that, you didn't know who you wanted. Once you draft a guy, the value of the pick goes down in the sense of the mystery behind door number one is worth more than once you've actually drafted the player. Have you heard that theory?
No, I've heard that, but may I counterpoint?
Are you going to counter that a top 18 protected first round pick doesn't have a ton of value to begin with?
No, I'm not going to say that at all. I'm going to say the Knicks are on the phone with Portland, and they're saying, look, we want Lillard, and Portland's saying you can't trade draft picks consecutive years in a row, and we want 3 in a row. Well, now the Knicks can, and they go, look, we have this top 18 protected first rounder. That'll put us over the top, right? And Portland's going to be like, yeah, we weren't going to do it, but now that we can get a number 19 pick next year, we're going to send one of the best players in the league over to you. So it's really, he was thinking ahead.
I think OKC and Houston, there was a trade the number 16 pick where I think OKC traded to Houston their first-round pick for 2 future first-round picks from Houston. OKC's, to a certain extent, OKC, they already had a first-round pick earlier in the draft, and they punted. But I was like, well, the return was 2 first-round picks. This return is something the same, like the same number or lower. It's a weird return.
Mm-hmm.
Like if they'd gotten an unprotected pick from Charlotte next year, I would have said, okay, you didn't find your guy. That's at least some value. Maybe it'll be a higher pick next year. This must be also a deep draft.
Yeah, no, that's what I was thinking too. Like, it doesn't. I don't know. It like putting protections like heavily protected seemed a little bit weird. I get if you're trading the pick and it's just like, yeah, you get our pick, we get yours, but having it that protected. So it's top 18 next year, top 16 the next 2 years, I believe, and then top 14, and then
it becomes 2 second-round picks.
And then it becomes 2 second-round picks.
I feel like, first of all, this is not wheeling and dealing. This is like begging Charlotte, and Charlotte be like, here, let's give you the crappiest possible offer without making it completely terrible.
I feel like the Knicks are doing Charlotte a favor, so Charlotte should have been the one to make some concessions.
I don't think Charlotte had a lot of respect for Leon Rose, really. I think whoever and his team was making this, trying to do this. I think they were just like, yeah, your time's ticking. They probably tried to do this in the last second. Charlotte's like, yeah, well, we'd like the pick, but we can give you the worst possible offer because time's a ticking.
So the argument is the Knicks had some guys they were eyeing, and those guys got taken. So since they weren't able to get the guys they wanted, they said, well, we'll just try again next year.
I mean, you should have all the guys they wanted were guys that were projected to go higher. It wasn't a huge surprise those guys were off the board.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's just the first 18 guys. You haven't stopped scouting after 18 guys, right? You should have other guys. There's got to be, not every team that drafted after them didn't go, oh my God, I need to punt also. Oh my God, I can't believe I'm taking this guy at 20. There were guys to take. And I also heard the argument, well, the Knicks are not going to play 3 rookies next year. First off, why not develop a guy in the G League? You're not going to play him in the NBA. Develop in the G League. Or maybe you will play 3 guys if they're all good. Like we need a lot more players in this team.
I mean, they played 2 last year, and it's not like they're like super deep.
It's not like it's not a super deep team. We're not like on a finals run next year. We're hoping to be as good as last year. I mean, we're developing a team. You think you want to take young players. It's also the only place, the best place in the NBA to find cheap young talent is the draft. I think they said they traded by not drafting by having one less first round pick, they saved $2 million. There is no possible way you're going to use that $2 million in a more effective means than like having a young player. You're not going to go sign someone in the open market for $2 million. It's going to be any good.
I would agree. Well, let's talk about Frank Grimes here.
Let's get 1 second. The roster itself also, it's not a deep roster when you don't count the guys that are not signed. Bullock's not signed for next year. Derrick Rose is not signed for next year. Going into next year right now, our point guards are, and Ntilikina now is not signed. Our point guards are Quickly, who the Knicks don't seem to think he's a starter. They got Villadoza, who we have no idea if he'll be good in the NBA. And they got this guy Grimes. That's all your point guards right now. And I know the Knicks are like, in the next few days, they'll make some moves, and maybe they'll bring in someone good, but like, I don't know, maybe draft another point guard. Maybe the last 20 years, one of your biggest positions of need, your biggest position of need is the point guard. Just take whoever else plays point guard and see if the guy ends up being good. Maybe you can develop him.
Okay. Yeah, how many assets do you think the Knicks would have to give up to get Halliburton now that they didn't draft him? I'm not going to bring it up every episode.
I think, I know people are also saying, well, this is a genius front office. Look, they found Quickly last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's great. And the year before, I guess they found Mitchell Robinson. So 2 years in a row, you found guys later in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
And this year, you're like, the later pick didn't matter.
All right, so Quentin Grimes,
his profile sounds really interesting. He was probably the best 3-point shooter in college last year.
Mm-hmm. 40.3%.
Yeah, on a high volume. He was a junior, so the 2 previous years his numbers weren't quite as good, but last year he really came into his own. Right? He was a junior, right? Correct?
Yeah.
Okay. He looks. So the Knicks had drafted this guy. The other thing they said, Scott Perry said he was nervous that a team before them would draft Grimes. He really wanted him, but if you really wanted him, why not at least take him at 21?
Yeah, I don't get trading down and then worrying that the guy you want is going to get taken. It seems like a really weird strategy.
And one knock is that people said the Knicks might have got Grimes in the second round, which is the same knock people said about Quickly, and who's turned out to be obviously a pretty a valuable player. And we're very happy they took him where they did. The thing with Grimes is, I guess he's been described as he's a cheaper alternative to Reggie Bullock because he plays hard-nosed defense. He shoots three. He's like a 3-and-D, a little short for a 3-and-D, but a 3-and-D guy. Sounds like an interesting profile. But Reggie Bullock was a starter for us last year. Is Quentin Grimes going to be a starter for us on day one?
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, I mean, no matter how good Grimes is, he'd have to be really good for the Knicks to have that much confidence to start him on day one.
Yeah.
I mean, what sounds less likely? The Knicks drafting 3 rookies and giving them all some playing time throughout the year, or the Knicks drafting this guy at 25 and him being the starter the entire season at the 3.
Yeah, I would say playing 3 rookies seems
More realistic. Right?
more realistic. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So people have said he might be a cheaper alternative to Reggie Bullock, but it doesn't negate maybe wanting to bring Bullock back.
Mm-hmm.
And also the team just needs a lot of shooting, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you think of the Grimes? I like everything I've heard about the Grimes pick. I didn't know enough about the draft to know the players this late in the draft, like who would be better. I like everything I've heard about him. I like him and McBride sound really interesting. What did you think of Grimes?
I like the fact that they are targeting a shooter. The Knicks need more 3-point shooting. I know they shot well last season, but I also feel like a few guys either won't be coming back or were playing above their normal career averages. So getting a guy that is young and might be able to be a long-term 3-point threat on the team, I really like. So
right, the Knicks started shooting a higher volume of threes later in the season and went well, but you're counting on you're counting on Randall to shoot as well as he shot last year. It'd be great, but it's not guaranteed. You're counting on RJ, also not an amazing shooter, to shoot as well as he shot last year.
Mm-hmm.
You're counting on bringing back Reggie Bullock. You're counting on bringing back Alec Burks. There's a lot of things you're counting on with this.
Yeah.
So like you can always use more shooting. Clearly in the playoffs they need more shooting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, they also need a point guard. So that brings us to pick number 2. Rokas Jokubaitis.
Yes. I like the idea of taking a stash pick. I don't know if this is too high to take a stash pick, but he's out of Yugoslavia.
Lithuania.
Lithuania. Why did I say Yugoslavia? That doesn't even exist anymore. He's out of Lithuania. They say like he's like a dynamic scorer. He's like 6'4". He has a lot of potential, but he's not going to play next year for the Knicks.
He's not going to play for 4 years.
4 years?
He has a 4-year deal with Barcelona.
Okay. I mean, I would hope. I was thinking that he'd be coming the following year.
No.
You think he's gone for 4 years?
He has a 4-year deal. So maybe he can get out of it, but as of now, we will not see him until 2025.
Okay. So the Knicks need help now,
Mm-hmm.
and they drafted a guy that is signed through 2025, right around the time they're going to get to use that Charlotte pick.
Look, the Knicks haven't had a point guard in 20 years. What's another 4?
Well, McBride is a point guard, right?
Yeah, so that brings us to the number 36.
Am I missing something there? Yeah.
The number 36 pick. Yes.
What did you think of, in isolation, trading 32 for 34 and 36?
That's not bad. I mean,
I thought it was a solid move.
If you think like McBride's our guy, he's going to be available. We could also get this stash. So 2 for 1, fine.
Yeah, I really liked that move. I thought that was I mean, I didn't like punting. I mean, this is just like trade a little bit down. This is your guy. You think he'll still be on the board? Made a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm fine with that. McBride, came out and said he's going to make everyone else who passed on him regret it.
I've never heard a player say that.
No, it's first time. First time. So, yeah, he's a defensive guard, which is good.
He's 6'2", which is a little short. Generally, you might want a little bit taller guard.
He also shot 41% from 3, 5 assists a game, 16 points. Pretty good.
Yeah, I think they also describe him as like a motor guy, like a guy like high energy, really tough, like really, really strong. Like people think, a lot of people are really, or Knicks fans at least, I don't know how the rest of the world thinks, but Knicks fans are all really high on him, and draft scouts have said that this is a very solid pick. And I even heard one scout say that it was a Knicks fan scout, whatever, so who said that if the Knicks had drafted McBride first, like it might be one of those drafts where like he's better than their first round pick. Like the last couple of years we've had Quickly was better than Toppin, Robinson was better than Knox. It might be a similar thing with this guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's fine. Yeah, it's great.
Well,
what do you think?
I think it's a good pick. My only issue is, again, the Knicks seem to be filling in the bench without filling in the starting pieces, which is what my complaint was last year, and I feel like they're doing it again.
So also Thibodeau apparently was a huge fan of this guy. He basically pushed the front office to take him,
mm-hmm.
which is a good sign also for his playing time. It's like Thibodeau won him on the team. I know what you're saying. The Knicks were not going to solve their starting positions on the in this draft. They had the 19 and 21st pick. It'd be hard to solve that. These guys could end up being good, but in year one, you're probably not going to solve that.
Yeah, the rumors were the Knicks were calling everybody to try and move up to like around the 12, 13 range, and it just nobody was taking it. So it was a deep draft. Even when you're watching it, everyone's like, "Oh, it's like 16 players deep," and I'm like, "Great, the Knicks got 19," but at least they tried.
There were a couple guys they were like high on, like Trey Mann. They were high on. Who obviously went before. He went a little before that. They were high on that guy Bouknight. Duarte. They were really high on. Moses Moody. All these guys that, whatever it is, what it is. They went earlier.
I was getting really excited because I thought the Knicks were going to trade up, and then Bouknight kept falling, and I was like, this is working out perfectly. He's not even drafted in the top 10. All the Knicks need to do is get like 11 or 12, and then just. We got to 19, and then they traded that away. I was like,
well, this is the first year where like the Knicks didn't draft high enough, and you weren't like annoyed that you're like, oh, they should have lost some games at the end of the season. They had a good year, and you pay for a good year by drafting a little bit later in the draft.
Yeah. So last pick, number 58, Jericho Sims, big man, 6'10". He's got a 44.5-inch vertical leap. He averaged 9, 7, and 1. 1 being blocks. Also a good defender. So it seems like they're focusing on a lot of defense first players.
It's pretty rare for a guy to go this late to end up being any good. It's just like signing an undrafted free agent. It's just very much a giant gamble, but it was a worthwhile gamble. And I like the idea of with this, like, take a center, have him be on third or fourth on the bench, and just develop him during the year.
Yeah, I mean, because you never know. We haven't really seen a full season of healthy Mitch. So if Mitch goes down, maybe Sims can play 15 minutes a game and get some development.
They've opted into Mitchell Robinson, meaning he'll be unrestricted free agent next year. But they got him for a low dollar value this year, which I think is smart in just the sense of like, Mitch can't stay healthy. Let's see what he can do in his fourth year. If he has a really good year, I'd rather pay him then than pay him now.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll bring back Noel, but you figure Robinson is back. I would assume Taj Gibson will be back. If they bring back Noel or they get some other inexpensive center and then they have Sims, it's a lot of depth.
Yeah, I'm hearing. Yeah. No, I agree.
I don't know if I thought Robinson was going to stay healthy, then you kind of don't necessarily need Noel, but I liked having both those guys last year, so I still want to pay a lot for Noel to get it back.
No, I wouldn't pay a ton, but he was good enough, I would think, to get like 8 to 10.
Yeah, I'd be kind of fine, but then you give him that, and then I don't know if you can really afford to pay both Mitchell Robinson and Noel $10 million for what they give you.
Right.
And for the value of centers in this league. But whatever. That's, I guess we'll see what the Knicks do. Free agency is coming up. What do you think? Do you want anything else you want to say about the draft?
No, let's check our emails first. We got about 10 minutes. David writes, our email is nyknickspodcast@gmail.com. David writes, how would you feel if we re-signed all our current players except for Peyton and used all our cap space on a massive 2-year contract for Kyle Lowry and a 4-year contract for Ball? Or alternatively, just sign Patty Mills for 1 year to fill the Elfrid Payton role and save our cap space the following year.
Well, you have to actually spend it. There's a floor, but you have to spend it on like a big 1-year deal.
You have to spend 90% of the cap. Yes.
Yeah. But you can spend it for a 1-year deal and have it for next year.
Yeah.
I don't hate getting Lowry. I don't hate getting Ball. If you gave me a 1-year or 2-year deal for Lowry, I would be totally fine with that. He's a very good veteran. I know he's near the end of his career. I think he'd bring enough to make this team a lot better. Also, he'd be a good point guard for a guy like McBride, and quickly to learn under.
Mm-hmm.
But I assume that excludes bringing back Rose.
Yeah, well, it looks like Rose is there's rumors now that Rose and the Bulls have mutual interest, as well as Ball. So
Ball and the Bulls.
So
yeah,
the Bulls could end up with Rose and Ball.
Yeah, I would be. Can you imagine the Knicks to come out of it? Like, the thing is, I don't know how much faith I have in the front office to get stuff done. I guess we'll see. Last year they didn't make any big moves. The team offset a very good season.
Mm-hmm.
You would hope they'd Ball would be a reasonable guy to get, but I know he's a bit of you're going to sign Ball to a big contract and be like, yes, we got him. He's going to be a bit underwhelming of a player. Like, he could get a lot better, but like he's not the answer. Great. What do you say?
He's not like the answer, big savior guy that the Knicks are probably trying to get on the roster. Yeah,
he's not a shot creator. He's a very good shooter, or he's getting better at shooter. His defense is getting better. He's a good passer, but he's not the most dynamic of a point guard.
Lorenzo's very happy about the idea of Patty Mills.
Patty Mills would be interesting. Is he leaving the Spurs though? Ever?
Who knows? Jorge writes, hey guys, is Kyrie the biggest nut in the NBA? He's trashing Nike because he didn't okay the design on the shoe.
Yeah.
I think every other episode we mentioned how happy we were we didn't get Kyrie.
Well, the Nets got Kyrie. How many titles do they have since? Oh, really? Same as the number as the Knicks have? It's great.
And last email, Phil writes, hello, gentlemen. How about a draft recap, guys? Also, I live on the West Coast, and news on what the Knicks traded and for what has been hard to come by. So your thoughts on what happened and why would be great.
I'm going to say overall, the process I hated. I would give the process like a D. I just hate not using a first round pick and how they did everything. But on the actual results, as far as drafting, I give them a B. All the draft used with the picks they did have, all the guys seemed reasonable. They seem interesting. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So to recap, 19 was traded for next year's heavily protected 19 pick for Charlotte. 21 was traded to the Clippers for 25 and a 2024 second rounder. And 32 was traded for 34 and 36.
Yeah, and then 34 was the stash in Europe, and then 36 is McBride.
Yeah, and they already had 58, so that was
Sims. Yeah, they also signed Amir Sims. They have 2 Sims. The thing about also the Knicks, and I can't get excited about the guys they undraft. Like, you're saying the Knicks don't have ruined the draft. A guy at 19, is the undrafted free agent going to make a big splash in the team? Maybe the guy Amir Sims and maybe Jericho Sims will end up being on the G League team. That would be interesting.
Bring Henry Sims back too.
Yeah, the guy named Sims. I am very interested to see what they do. I wonder if you have to make the decision right now, how are you spending the money, Jay?
Are we assuming Ball's off the board?
No, we're not assuming Ball's off the board. I know the Bulls and him have mutual interest. Does not mean he's going to sign with the Bulls. It does not, like, everything's still in play. So, and Kawhi Leonard opted out, But Kawhi Leonard wants to live on the West Coast. He's not coming to the Knicks.
Well, he's also going to miss all of next season pretty much.
I cannot believe he opted out when he's going to miss that much of the season.
So, I mean, you have Kyle Lowry, Patty Mills, Dinwiddie. There's not a lot, really.
I don't love the things I don't love. Dinwiddie sounds like he's signing elsewhere, right?
Sounds like it, yeah.
I don't want Dinwiddie. I don't think he's a great shooter. He's coming off a major injury. I don't want the guy in the Lakers with the stupid hair. Jay, come on, help me.
Schroeder?
Yeah, Dennis Schroeder.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a bench player. He's a solid like six man. He's a good player. I don't think he's the answer at starting point guard for the Knicks.
Nick is saying Jalen Brunson.
Brunson's interesting, but if he signed, don't you have to trade for him?
Yeah, I think you have to trade for him.
He would be interesting though. Maybe the Knicks have a lot of second round picks. Maybe Dallas is just stupid.
I mean, it sounds like Dallas is doing. I don't know what they're doing actually.
The thing is, the Knicks don't seem to really value like they placed for all this time, for all those years. We were like, just value your goddamn draft picks. Kept trading away. Then they finally started a couple years in a row. They made draft picks, and now they've gone back to like not necessarily completely valuing their draft picks, and they're just calling them assets. And they've got a bunch of second round picks, but they don't seem to really value the second round picks that much. So I think the Knicks think they can collect all these assets and make a big move with them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if the assets they have. The only asset they really have is their own pick.
Yeah. Yeah, Jalen Brunson makes 1.8 next year, but it's not guaranteed. So there's a chance they just don't take him. But it seems like good value.
They're gonna guarantee him.
Yeah, it seems like good value.
Yeah. Maybe they can convince Dallas though. Like, what can you give Dallas to get Brunson from them? Maybe you give away this Charlotte pick. Maybe you give the Charlotte and one of the Dallas picks back for them and you get Brunson. You think Dallas would do that?
Trade who?
You trade the Dallas pick, the Porzingis Dallas pick, and this Charlotte pick to get Brunson. And throw in Knox.
Do you really want to throw in like 2 picks for
Jalen Brunson?
Yeah.
He's supposed to be pretty good. I don't know. I'm just trying to think about it. You're right. That might be an overpay for Jalen Brunson, obviously. I don't have a great answer for you at point guard. I don't have a great answer for this team. I think this is a very I don't know. I don't know what the Knicks are going to do.
It's tough.
I think
it's tough.
Ball might be the most logical choice.
He might be. I mean, I feel like since they flubbed last year, like now they're in this hole where it's going to be really hard to get a really good starting level point guard.
Well, this is also why my whole point was
I don't want to hear wait till next year again, because it's like every year it's like wait till next year and then we're going to get this savior, and who's available next year? Like all the top, like other than Rozier, all the top point guards are well past their prime. Wall, Westbrook, Curry, Paul, Kemba, Kyrie. Like, do you want any of those guys for like massive amounts of money?
Right. It's also, this is why you want to draft young players and just develop them and hope some of them work out, because you can't keep waiting for a Messiah. That's why I was like, just take another first round pick. Like, the Messiah is not walking in this summer. So maybe a guy like Lonzo comes into his own the next few years. It would might be a worthwhile gamble.
Mm-hmm.
You get Lowry. I mean, it's a good guy for young players to learn under, but how much better does it make our team?
I mean,
I think it makes it better, right? But
if there's one thing we've learned, it's that there's no untradeable contract. If you give Ball 4 years, $80 million, it's movable.
Westbrook has been traded year after year. It's unbelievable. He's now in the Lakers. What do you think of that, Jay? On just a total side note.
It's LeBron's latest attempt at forming a super team, and I really don't like this trend. On the other hand, Westbrook is going to be 33. LeBron will be 36. Davis is still in his 20s, but that's like $120 million in salary, just those guys. And
yeah,
you know, the other deal that almost went through, they could have got healed for just Harrell and Kuzma, which I would have rather done, because then you still had KCP and a draft pick.
Yeah,
So-
I agree.
I don't know.
Westbrook is like when he was healthier the second half of last year, he looked pretty good, but he's just not a good shooter.
No,
And
you know, LeBron's okay, and like they just, and then they're giving up like some of their shooters. So I don't know. I hope it doesn't work out because I don't like.
yeah,
I root against any team that tries to do a super team.
it should be interesting. I just wonder like how it's going to work with LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Westbrook. All have injury issues at this point, and none of them are great outside shooters. I know, but then there's rumors of other guys like DeRozan might just take a cheap contract to win a title.
Yeah. How cheap? Like they're maxed out. He's gonna go from like turn down like 20 million for like 2 million.
Would you use DeRozan? Here's a guy. Would you sign DeRozan for the Knicks? He's a little older, but he had a great season last year. He's like 32. He's definitely a really good scorer. He's just not a 3-point shooter at all. But
Right. He doesn't spread
he,
the floor, and his defense is so.
His passing is much better last season. He would be one of the best scorers in the team. He'd be a lot better than Alec Burks.
I mean, it's not terrible, but it's not like
None of these moves are game changing.
acquiring 30-year-olds is not. You want a sustainable contender. You don't want like a team like the 2013 Knicks where it's like they were good, but then the very next year they're like rebuilding again. Like, what does that?
I mean,
do?
the Knicks have to find guys. Like, I mean, hopefully IQ takes a real step forward this year. Hopefully RJ looks even better in year 3. But also this goes back to like having more first round picks. Like if the Knicks had drafted like every year, there's a guy that like not every year, but a lot of years there are guys that are drafted later who suddenly you're like, oh shit, that guy's really good. But we didn't know it on draft night. Maybe at 19, you could have drafted the next Donovan Mitchell. Maybe you could have drafted just a guy who would be an Alex Burks off the bench, which would be huge.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Or we were way too negative. I'm sorry for being so negative.
it's hard. You know, we're not like so much. I wouldn't call this negative. It's just like I don't know what the answer is. I think that's fair. We'll probably lose another 100 followers. Like we didn't like the draft on Twitter, and like 15 people unfollowed us. But like it is. I will say I'm going to be following Kai Jones and Keon Johnson closely and also Jalen Johnson and Isaiah Jackson because those are all the guys the Knicks could have had, and you know.
I don't know. I listened to a couple other Knicks podcasts and listened to their reactions. The Locked On Knicks guys, I think, they have a good show. They have a very they had a very normal reaction to this, being like it wasn't the best draft process. And I generally like their show a lot. There's some other ones. I heard their reactions and the people being like, "Oh my God, this is sheer genius! I can't believe they even thought of this." And you're like, "How do you react this way? Like, just stop reflectively defending the team. The team, if you've been a fan of this team for the last 20, 30 years, you know this team has made tons and tons of like just terrible mistakes. You can't just assume the guys running the team now are just geniuses that can make no mistakes."
Yeah.
And I also feel like there's the hubris that Leon Rose would say, "I know who's going to be good and who's not going to be good in the draft. So I know these other guys just aren't going to be good players, so I'm just not going to draft them." Do you really know?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, nobody knows.
Yeah. So just take another bite at the apple.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been way too negative.
It happens. It happens. So, what we are going to do now is we are going to switch over to our other podcast, which is our comedy podcast, The Brink of Sanity.
We will probably do one more episode as free agency settles in and we know what the Knicks are going to look like, and then we'll probably take the summer off or do less shows in the summer and do more break.
Yeah, we'll do a show whenever something happens, but I feel like just going over the same material every week just to pad our stats isn't worth anybody's time, ours or yours. So
right, I think we'll just want to see what happened with free agency, and then we'll have some more stuff to talk about.
You can follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/crumpledbacon, and we'll be doing both of our shows. This show, The Brink Show, we do some video game stuff. Follow us, you get a notification when we go live, and So whatever we end up doing, you can join us. FET coach says the answer: wait for Dolan to die in a spacecraft explosion.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it even Dolan's fault though?
Indirectly, because he keeps hiring people that aren't good at their jobs.
Yeah.
Although,
and I guess like he maybe gives like the pressures we have to win now, and so like people react accordingly.
Before we get 18 nasty grams, yes, it's too soon to tell about Rose, but I am not excited about what he's done so far. Let's just say that. But
in his defense, they hired a good coach. The team made the playoffs for the first time in a while. Things are looking good, and they got IQ in the draft last year. Maybe Obi will be better than we expect. Obi like started to look decent, just plays safe as just Randall.
Mm-hmm.
I am okay. Let's go to the next show, Jay.
All right, thanks for listening. You can email us nyknickspodcast, and that's also our Patreon and our Twitter and our Facebook and our Instagram, NY Knicks Podcast. So thanks for listening, and we'll be back soon.
I love you. Goodbye, everybody. It's all over. Goodbye. It's time to go. This is the end. Say goodbye.